Hey everybody, welcome back to the 706 podcast for our 9th episode. In store for you today, we're going to talk about John Waters' 1990 movie, Crybaby. Crybaby is a musical, kind of like a teenage musical in the vein of Grease, but there's a black comedy element to it. It explores a lot of elements of, at least in a subtle way, of socially unacceptable behavior. The idea of juvenile delinquency versus kind of the upper class element of society, contrasting those two and playing with that. For those of you who don't know John Waters, he's a very famous writer, director. He's written, I think, 6 books, directed about 10 movies. He's known kind of informally as the Pope of Trash. He specializes in this sort of exploitation, as he calls it,
campy
style films. But this is one of his milder films. There are some films that really do push the limit of what people will watch in a movie setting. These very taboo issues of selling drugs to kids and raping women and eating feces. All these things he explores. And I did want to set the stage a little bit. I wanted to give 3 John Waters quotes out, kind of like candy, to my 3 co-hosts here. So I do have one for Anthony from John Waters, and it goes as follows. We need to make books cool again. If you go home with somebody and they don't have any books, don't fuck them.
I believe you read that at the Strand, which they sell on coffee mugs for $12.95.
Yes. Well, okay. He's intimately familiar with it. For Tony,
I like the quote.
I thank God I was raised Catholic, so sex will always be dirty. That's Tony's quote. And just Connor, our ever introspective co-host, just.
This is going to be a strife.
I strive for art in reverse. I think that's a great quote, and I think it kind of speaks to
all of us.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know.
No, I meant your quotes in general.
Oh. But let's talk about the movie a little bit. Without further ado, let me introduce my 3 co-hosts, which I so rudely forgot to do. So why doesn't everybody introduce themselves?
Yeah. Well, when I was born, I was named Anthony after my father. But there's another person on the show also named Anthony. So for the sake of just easiness, I'll go by Tony on this program.
And let me say that I was named Anthony after my own father, who was named Anthony after his father. But after the rightful heir to this name, I go by Anthony on the show.
And I'm Connor.
Thank you, Connor. And so we will proceed. Now, let's go around and hear what everybody has to think about this movie. I'm interested. I have some apprehension. I hope I don't get body of lies again, if that's a verb that I'm making up. But let's hear it. So anybody
starting? I can start. Well, I've never seen a John Waters movie, but I've always considered him kind of an interesting figure. I've always kind of enjoyed his appearances and interviews and whatnot. He seems like kind of a colorful personality. But everything I hear about John Waters is, he's a dirty man. He makes the most disgusting movies of all time. You won't be able to watch them. They're so horrifying and sickening. I can scarcely speak their names. So when he announced the John Waters movie, I was excited. But, then I kind of saw what it was, and Johnny Depp and it's PG-13, and I'm like, okay, it's probably not going to be too crazy. And it was not. So I was initially kind of like put off by the lack of, I was scandalized by the lack of scandalous material. But, once you get used to the movie and like what it was, it sets its tone very quickly. It's very confident in, its direction and its tone and its characters and its casting especially. It's very much like a very silly kind of, musical set in the 50s, and it's very like campy and silly, and everyone's playing a type. It's very much the slobs versus snobs story, or in this case, the drapes versus the squares, which I do like. I do like the name The Drapes, which I've never heard before. And yeah, everyone's very much playing. And no one in this movie gives a good performance, but they're giving a very appropriate performance. Or I guess they are good in that sense. They're giving kind of these campy, kind of silly, over-the-top performances, especially like Johnny Depp, who is very good in this movie. I can't think of who else would have played this guy, the titular crybaby. But I enjoyed this movie. I feel like once you kind of get used to what it's doing, like maybe 2/3 of the way in, it starts to drag a bit. Like it doesn't quite really like there's a drop. Like by the end, it's good again, but there's a certain period. I think once he like goes to prison, where it's like, okay, I get it. Like it doesn't really continue making me laugh the way the first part did. But there are parts in this movie that I will say were very funny and were very much in line with my own sense of humor. So I did like it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Let's hear.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I mean, I love the music.
Yeah.
But then we know about talking about a soundtrack first. But this was a musical, and it was kind of about the music. And yeah, as you guys said, I've been kind of surprised. I think maybe I don't really get John Waters. I don't know to what extent, or I don't know about a lot of his movies. But this was an interesting introduction because it feels to me probably like the tamest version of John Waters. But very interesting, just a classic motif of the of drapes and squares and that cultural war that here is kind of restaged, and it's almost like a feud between clans or something. It's like a very awesome, I can't quite say it's unironic. It's self-aware, but it's a pretty straightforward story. You can probably guess what will happen by the end. It's a movie that I was expecting some kind of subversion or a twist of some kind, which didn't really come. But it is it's the movie's commitment to this kind of cheesy but fun story that is, I think, kind of the point.
All right.
I'm actually glad that Kirk brought this up last week, and then I picked it, because I don't know if I ever would have got around to watching this movie on my own, as much as John Waters interested me. I've seen Hairspray, the original, and the musical that was later adapted from it. So I've seen the other somewhat mainstream, somewhat box office John Waters movie. Not that we could really call Crybaby a box office hit. I think it actually did even make its budget.
I don't believe so. It didn't do too well. But yeah, it was fought over by major studios.
Well, Hairspray, made over $200 million worldwide. So anyway, my only other familiarity with John Waters, besides what basically Tony was saying, is that the sort of crowd I hear talk about him is, for no other word, rather kind of pretentious. And so but I do know that, he does specialize in sort of these deliberate, portentous movies. And after seeing this, I feel like John Waters is definitely a guy steeped in the sort of fascination of the 1950s. Watching this, I love the callbacks to, I think Kirk already said Grease, Rebel Without a Cause stood out with the chicken race scene. And, a lot of obvious, I think, comparisons to Elvis movies, which the only ones I could remember seeing are King Creole and Jailhouse Rock, which stood out for me a lot with the music. I actually, though, disagreed with Tony over here, because for me, the movie never really dragged. I actually was pretty into it the whole time. And some of my favorite parts actually were in the jail scene. But, I really liked it. I don't know what I was expecting, but I think it delivered.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad nobody was super put off by it, super detested it. I
mean, it's a pretty likable movie. It's
it's hard to
and fun and light
but I think that's part of its brilliance for me, is that it is so inoffensive. Like, you could watch this movie with your mom and she would giggle at some parts. At least I'm thinking of invoking my mom, but I could not watch Pink Flamingos, which is John Waters' most famous movie, with my mother. I could not do it. I would rather watch Saw 1 through 7 back to back. I would. It's just so I like how he plants these ideas. He talks about how there's a song, there's a lyric, a chorus from a song. It's I'm not getting out till I'm 21, and it's I guess I'm in jail for being cool, and then he's in the jail, and it's much
being
more
young.
What is it?
Guess I'm in jail for being young.
Yes, I guess I'm in jail for being young. So just kind of youthfulness and how it kind of goes contrary. It's counterproductive to what the roles that are prescribed for us as young adults or as teenagers. So and I did like, there are these little things where when they're getting arrested and when he's in jail, there are a lot more African American people, black people, and at the charm school where the squares congregate, it's exclusively white, upper middle class, Protestant values, and even the 4 B's they kind of chant, like the calling card of this charm school. It's beautify, beauty,
brains,
breeding, and bounty. Like, that is almost like
waspy.
Is that like
actually
Youth Hitler Club? I don't even know, man. That so I kind of like how John Waters in this movie he realized that he wasn't going to be able to do what he did with Pink Flamingos, yet he still made something that teenagers could identify with, older people could kind of see, make a little chuckle at. And enjoy the music along with kind of the silliness of it. But what else? Anything else?
I think it was kind of like it came after Hairspray. It kind of felt like he was trying to do Hairspray again, trying to do like another hit musical. And it very much feels like that. It feels like I could see this like played at my high school. Like, we're doing Crybaby this year, and everyone would have fun with it. But it's interesting you bring up some of those themes. The thing that's tough to talk about with regards to those is that the whole movie is basically in quotes. It's all very winking and silly. So it's hard to tell what exactly is a send-up of that kind of 50s movie and what is being done in earnest. But there is some interesting kind of social stuff going on. The one thing that I found very striking is that at Turkey Point,
yeah,
right?
That's
which
the
is kind of
rebel hangout.
The hillbilly / rebel hangout, which is the drapes. There's very prominently displayed numerous Confederate flags, which maybe there's a piece, and this is set in Baltimore, by the way, which is not what you really associate with the Confederate flag. So maybe there's a big piece of context I'm missing, but I found that very striking, and I was wondering kind of what was intended by that.
I mean, I have a thought. I mean, it's kind of an interesting thing. I think kind of the whole movie, or sort of the I always say this, the whole movie. I shouldn't say that. What I mean is that I think the drapes in general could symbolize in like a broad way, like all of like counterculture of the past, 60, 70 years. I mean, it is interesting for that reason. But then you have this interesting idea that, they are sort of rooted in this hillbilly, this whole cracker thing, poor whites. Elvis was one of those, for instance, and he embraced his hillbilly kind of heritage, kind of disenfranchised whites. And that's kind of interesting social element that somehow also feeds into the idea of counterculture, which is kind of, eventually became a thing about equality for everybody. Everybody should be able to do their own thing. So interesting that the Confederate flag gets kind of wrapped up in that.
I actually also think that there's that's a good explanation. I think there's actually even a simpler point, though, is that, one, like you touched on, the hillbilly music, which becomes popular around the mid-1950s, like you said, with Elvis, and Buddy Holly, who dabbles in it to a certain extent, and Richie Valens, is you go on... you could probably go online and look up certain shows, and you might see when they are performing in the South, sort of catering to these areas. You might look up a Buddy Holly performance, and you might actually see a little Confederate flag lying on a drum kit. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you could bring a context, and I actually agree with you, but I also think there is sort of a foundational place for this.
I mean, yes, but he made the choice of putting it in. I mean, it wasn't a documentary movie. So, I mean,
it's very prominent as well. It's the big curtain on the stage when Crybaby performs for the first time, I believe. Mm-hmm. But
I don't think he wants us to over-identify with the rebels. I think we were supposed to kind of view these both as, I know, we all know this,
there's a distance.
Super
there's a distance between us and them because it's all,
Yeah, and it's so kind of like, look at the, we're watching like an experiment in a way. But I was going to mention one thing. I was going to ask... I was going to mention actually that the music, this is kind of cool, is... he basically he contracted out for the music, so there are various groups and songwriters that wrote the music for this. So it definitely shows through kind of his love for the era, like you said, Anthony, but also his love for originality and creativity, and he does kind of basically to his own demise in a certain way, as you were mentioning, Tony, how some of the things aren't as edgy as you were expecting. Indirectly, he kind of hurts himself because when you think about this movie was made in 1990, right? And we're watching it in 2016. What happened between those times, like things like Jackass and Sacha Baron Cohen and whatever, these shock comedians kind of came along who were inspired by John Waters. So
Borat.
they kind of
Sacha Baron Cohen.
What?
Sacha Baron Cohen, is that his name?
Yeah.
That's
Borat,
his name,
Yeah. So they kind of took what he had done with Pink Flamingos and what he tried to carry on here, but also bridge the gap between mainstream and kind of niche. But so he almost hurts himself because we're conditioned to be so shocked.
No. I mean,
when he's the one that not started it, but he is the Pope of
identified
trash.
with it. Look, I don't want to criticize. I'm not criticizing the movie for that because that's not what the movie is. That would be unfair of me because that's not what the movie's trying to do.
Okay.
I'm just saying my own expectations. So initially, I was kind of like, oh, okay, but no. I don't see that as a problem. I do think there's again, as you said, kind of subversive elements or whatever, but it's very palatable in general.
This movie did only box $8 million. I did just read that.
And the budget was
$12 million.
So it's a failure by any standard.
A failure.
Was that James Enfield singing for Johnny Depp in that movie?
It was. Yeah. How did you know that?
I listened to James Enfield.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, It was dubbed, obviously. Johnny Depp isn't that great.
Oh, I was hoping that.
Well, Johnny Depp's a pretty decent singer.
Is he?
He probably doesn't sing like that though.
He sings in Sweeney Todd, which is and he was in a rock band where he was a singer.
Okay.
Right.
Wow.
Maybe not like that. I mean,
I could tell.
but I think he's a decent singer.
No. Maybe I'm saying this style.
Yeah.
Style as well. But yeah, no, I thought the music was good. I like the music. It all fit right in. It did nothing was really glaringly 1990 about it, even though it was all written for the movie.
Interesting mix of original and usage of like the Sandman.
Sandman,
yeah,
I did find that out.
Yeah.
A lot of the transitional music and that song Sandman were not conscripted for this movie specifically.
Well, and the Sandman I loved because it comes at a moment. It's like a plot moment, and we see that it actually the lead singer actually. She sings kind of out of rhythm with the rest of them, so it becomes this weird kind of very different kind of song when you hear it. I mean, you hear some of the familiar tunes, but it's just very interesting. I liked it a lot.
What do you think someone that's rather old, let's say 80 plus?
You mean someone who lived through the 50s?
Yeah, because
the age of the kids.
You're watching these people do, what is that? The shuttlebug? What is that dance called that they're doing down the street? It's just so overtly just not caring about any sort of timidity with kind of playing on that 50s feel, and it just shoves it right in your face in kind of good way for me at least. They're dancing down the street. The kids are the orphanage scene where it's like they're trying to rehabilitate these 8-year-old kids, and they're it's almost like they're shopping for kids when they go to the orphanage to get back the Drapes kids, kind of their youngsters. But I don't know. What do you think? Like an older person, I mean, would they catch the humor? That's kind of subversive, but
I think it's more for. Look, we were watching this movie years later, and we get it. So I imagine an older person would get it just as much as not.
You think
more.
so? Yeah,
clearly.
Okay.
Also, I don't think it's necessarily made for. Keep in mind, made in 1990, so over 30 years after it's set. So the people who would remember that would be fairly old, definitely older at the time of its release.
Yeah.
I think it's more for people who've seen kind of the movies. It's homaging than people who grew up in the 50s. To me, it's more of kind of a play on. Depictions of the 50s and the 50s itself.
Yeah.
Although there's a little bit of that in there.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I think you might also say, too, this movie comes out in 1990. John Waters growing up through the 50s. He goes through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. And he arrives at this point, which is the movie. And I think it is having fun, like you said, with the depiction of the 1950s. But another point of the movie for me seems to be it's somewhat poking fun at sort of this image we have of it. The 1950s, in the Leave It to Beaver, the classic white middle America, and a time when even our rebel or bad boy teenagers are rather tame by any later decade's comparison. We of course know that's probably not entirely true, and there's a lot worse stuff going on. But I just think, that's might be another element you could add in there for your depiction.
Yeah, it's like he creates this cultural monument based on collective memory, and then he kind of proceeds to not necessarily piss on it, but at least kind of, question it or make fun of it, poke fun.
I'm not sure he really. I think he really believes that these rebels are cool. I think he really believes in cool. He believes in free sexuality. I think he believes in this stuff. I don't think he's like making fun of it. I really don't.
I don't know about that though, because I mean these bad boys, these drapes are at the same time having multiple kids. They're living in an area I can't imagine anyone thinking it's cool. On and on.
I think we got a square over here.
I would definitely not want to. I would. I mean, let's be honest. I would be on the truck with the other minor community, or in the prison based on this movie.
He does. I want to watch some more John Waters. I'm only and I'm currently reading one of his books, but I think, from what I can glean, he's very astute, and he's aware of history and how it plays into today, and he's aware of like kind of collective consciousness. So, and I think this wasn't the best showing of his talent, but I think it really was a damn good showing of it. And
that was really good, really super cool, and just such a pretty movie. Such a very pretty.
It is like some of the camera shots are very pretty. Yeah.
It's the type of movie where tomorrow I'll probably go on YouTube and type in "Crybaby songs"
and
watch some clips.
Absolutely, I will.
Maybe I think they're gonna go on my Spotify account soon.
Absolutely. But okay, so back to this thing of like whether we believe it or not, or whether we think it's ironic. I mean, I've said my piece.
Yeah.
I think I didn't mean to just totally, shoot what Anthony was saying down. It's true. There is an element of like, this is kind of ridiculous. They live in sort of a really bad situation. It's sort of absurd, the conditions in which they live. But it is a kind of family. It's stupid. It's kind of ridiculous. But it is this family, and they do have to bust the kids out of the orphanage, which is, is oppressive to them. It's like it's a stupid facade of what we think, kids should live like, and all the kids are so happy when they hold up the orphanage and all the kids break out. It's like the jail, and it's a very simplified thing, but it's supposed to be, I think, some kind of cathartic release, or a pure just really embracing that idea of like the losers win, and it's good to be hip, it's good to not be square,
I think
I want to say it's hip to be square.
Which I think is to not puppet John Waters. I think like maybe what he would want to say would, and this is obviously me channeling him, would be like it's not about their lifestyle. That's not the problem necessarily, even though it does have its inherent flaws. What's far more insidious and dangerous is our perception of the degree to which that lifestyle is not okay. So to the degree to which we label it deviant. So it's all about labeling.
Wait, labeling the drapes?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean
it's not necessarily the fact that she's shooting a gopher in her front lawn. It's the fact that we kind of associate that with a certain type of person without actually understanding anything about them.
No, I agree, but the other thing I think just that supports your point though is, I mean, the losers, as Connor calls them, the cool, Johnny Depp and the cool, the cool kids, the drapes, they do win in the end, but what happens right before they're able to actually win? I mean, we do see them break into the orphanage and get the kids out, but we also see along that those scenes the failed prison attempt of where these two drapes come in and Crybaby's totally gone, and Crybaby's trying to escape, ends up in the one place he doesn't want to be. It's not until we actually get the judge involved that Crybaby's actually finally able to come outside. So I think to some extent John Waters, or at least I hope he's trying to say this, or would like to believe so, is trying to say that these people that we're so quick to label deviants, to some extent we should be trying to help them fit, not necessarily fit in, but work with them or get them involved in a new way that doesn't shun them away.
Okay. I do like, he also played on beauty. We haven't talked about the character Hatchet Face. I wonder what you guys thought of her. Hatchet Face is a character, she's kind of I don't know what the archetype would be, but she's very much there.
Is there an archetype?
Probably not. I mean, she's a very unique looking person. She's the makeup very much augments her look, but she's wearing like these false teeth.
She's introduced. We see her from behind. We got a gaggle of boys and saying, "Ooh, look at that!" And then she turns around, and she's got a horrible face, witch-like face.
Yeah, I think he's saying something about beauty. He definitely is. I mean, at the end, Johnny Depp's like, "You're beautiful, darling," and I don't know. For me, that just it gives me a little warm feeling inside that it's like really honestly, fuck that perception of beauty or whatever that is, and she really owns it. Like what she lacks in beauty, she makes up for in her ability to be a tough ass bitch. You know what I mean?
I think John Waters is attracted to these, kind of like I hesitate to say like grotesque, but these kind of
weirdos,
these weird looking,
weirdos,
these odd looking
eccentric
people.
Yeah.
And he likes how they look on screen. He thinks they add to the world of his movie, which isn't like necessarily like a horrible thing, but I think that's a part of it as well.
So you think it's purely aesthetic or a part
Not
of it?
Purely aesthetic.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think anything is purely aesthetic.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a part of what I believe, but no, I think that ties into kind of his themes or like the welcoming the weirdos. Or, there's more than meets the eye there, but I think he also just likes that look or kind of the shock value of it, the initial just like reveal, because he's not just putting her in the movie arbitrarily, like casting her like anyone else. It's very deliberate. Like he's very much like seeing, she has a very unusual face. I'm going to exaggerate that with the makeup and the way it's shot, and like make that a part because characters refer to her or they acknowledge it, and she's called Hatchet Face. So
it's kind of like asking the audience. He's like, "Are you triggered?" Like throughout the movie, and like, "Are you triggered?" And like,
or it kind of dares you to look away because when you see Hatchet Face initially, I am kind of like, "Whoa!" Like that's kind of like, that's my gut reaction. That's how I feel, So, which is probably what he's going for. I think he also said another quote is that if people vomit, not in this context, but I think he does go for kind of the revulsion or the shock value or whatever.
Vomiting an audience member is more than a standing ovation.
Yeah, exactly.
The only funny thing though about this whole beauty thing, which I agree is, I think he's making a statement about, is that the two most beautiful people in the movie end up together. And I mean that's not like that's not a problem. That's not a problem. I'm sure that that in some.
The judge and
the grandma.
It has that generic quality to it. We know from the very beginning who's going to get together at the end.
He's confined to the style.
And I think he embraces the kind of the
well,
trope.
I think that's
he embraces the tropiness to the extent that it ends on a freeze frame of their two faces. Not one, but two tears on both of their faces. It's a very knowingly cheesy. It's another wink at the audience. It's like a really kind of dopey, silly ending, but it's...
That's also, though, the way a lot of 1950s things ended like that. The Elvis,
I'm saying is leaning into that.
No, I'm just adding,
What do you think about Hatchet Face? What do you what do you think her purpose is?
I thought Hatchet Face, it was a good message. I think we got kind of the message of that character and the point of that character. I thought with him, he was shoving it in my face in a way that like, it's like, well, do I hate looking at Hatchet Face? No, I don't. And I like that character kind of, but it's like the way she's just kind of a one-trick pony in a way.
Yeah.
But I think I got kind of where he was coming from. He wanted me to see it a lot. He wanted me to have to really deal with this character multiple times. And I'm fine with that. And but I did want to ask one thing about what is it about Cry Baby? What is it about crying in tears? I've been thinking about this because like definitely we have like the sex, teenagers, cars, that make up this kind of this American cultural obsession and also make up the counterculture and that kind of thing. What makes us interested in the movie? But there's also this idea of Cry Baby. Is he sad? There's this thing about the almost sexualization of tears. They lick each other's tears off their faces. This sexualization of sadness, which I think is really interesting.
Tony, that moment.
She bottles her tears and then drinks them, which I found to be the most disgusting thing. That, I guess, made up for it. I guess it's the John Waters disgusting stuff.
And Tony's statement was the shocking moment for me.
That's
the most disgusting thing I've
seen.
We've watched a lot of disgusting things.
Look, I mean, there's certain things like gore, like does nothing to me or whatever, but there are various things. But there's just certain things that just set me off. Like the idea of drinking a bottle of tears is the most disgusting idea I can imagine.
Salty
it's
water.
So gross. It's so gross. Anyway, that's
it is. I can feel it in my throat too.
On Connor's point, that's actually interesting because I was wondering about that too. And one thing I was thinking or theorizing as I was watching the movie is that, crying is often seen, at least it used to be, for guys as sort of like a feminization almost aspect. And so in the 1950s, what happens to masculinity, we begin to see sort of these teen idols who are not conforming to sort of the standards. They begin to slightly switch. James Dean.
Or like Lou Christie is a song like Two Faces Have I. He sings in this very whining voice. There was a very Lou Christie-esque song in this movie. I'm sorry, go on, Anthony.
No, it's like James Dean. We get a few other teen idols. Tab Hunter, who actually is in a John Waters film. I can't remember which one, but the idea of just these kind of men that girls are looking forward to now have somewhat female almost aspects, or at least things we think about like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's the single tear, so it's kind of there's a stoicism to it. It's like I can express my emotions, but the one tear is all they're getting out of me. He says, like it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So
what's funny is all his like fans though also cry a single tear.
That's true.
These are the crybaby girls.
At the end,
One
everyone
tear.
cries a single tear, and then he cries 2 tears. Yeah.
Which I guess
Very
is
SpongeBob-esque.
end of his arc, I guess. He gets an extra tear.
And we all had one tear in our eyes.
I think I played that. Yeah, I think I. That's why I had so many tissues by my bed. I think okay. I've been watching too many John Waters movies, folks. I do think it's a play on masculinity, and especially in the 50s when that was so like not, it was like you said, it was shifting, but at the time, coming out of the war and just trying to find a place for masculinity but also at the same time a place for kind of gender ambivalence and a breaking down of those stereotypes. So I think the crybaby element, like when I first watched this movie, I was a little taken back. I was like, crybaby, I thought maybe it was in reference to I hadn't read anything about it. I thought it was maybe in reference to some other minor character, and Johnny Depp would be like the typical hard ass, which he is in most every way, except for the fact that he like cries these tear. Yeah, one tear, and so I thought it was just another way of him kind of keeping you off balance. Maybe I don't know what, but I liked Anthony's reading of it too. Like it's obviously I think it's kind of a sign of a picture of the times as well.
Crybaby also just sounds like a very fitting kind of name for that character. It's kind of like you don't question it. It's like when you hear the name of the movie, it's like, oh, okay, but like the fact that there's this kind of this cool guy in the 50s named Crybaby, it's like it sounds right.
It feels pretty right. Yeah.
So,
but let's head towards the voting part of this episode. I think we've had a pretty good discussion. I'll go around the table. I would like to remind folks that I am 0 for 2 with Spice World and Body of Lies. I do regret Body of Lies. Spice World I don't regret. Never will regret Spice World.
Don't regret
I'll put
Body
that
of Lies.
That is my epitaph.
Don't regret Body of Lies. That was your movie. Own it, Kirk.
Okay, I'll own Body of Lies. He owns Sonny Killer. I'll own Body of Lies. All right, fine. So let's hear it.
Oh, okay. I'm kind of torn here because I do like the movie and it's a fun movie to discuss, but it's like, is it one of the 700? Like this is a movie that I don't really see myself watching again or like showing to other people, or a movie that I'm never really gonna like be that passionate about or like write about. Like there's nothing about this movie that I think is really like truly exceptional. I think it's singular and it's kind of interesting and it's fun, but I don't think it's like great. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know if I'm having some kind of bias against what it is, but like if it were like a hilarious movie maybe, or if it were really, interesting or something. I don't know. I like it, but I don't think I can quite say yes.
So it's a no, right?
I'm saying
we're not
no.
going to get confused.
It's like Amelie again. No, I would say no.
Okay.
I can't quite say no, but I can't say...
I can't quite say yes, so I'm saying no.
Yes, it's confusing. All right.
So, I know this whole time I really seemed like I enjoyed and loved this movie, but I got to go yes.
Oh, he's doing the reality show thing.
I just really wanted to see Kirk depressed for a moment.
That was very much like
does that thing.
We'll be back after these words.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm also pretty torn because I like the movie. I thought I was kind of waiting for some kind of twist, ultimately I thought it was a very like simple story that like I like some kind of subversion. Basically, like I'm a square and I want the squares to have their comeuppance.
That's in the sequel.
It's called Revenge of the Nerds. But anyway, basically, but I'm thinking about it again in comparison to Tony. I definitely would show this to someone. I really like the music. I thought it was cool. I can't say it's like it's original in a way. It's also very similar. It's very much fits into its context. So these revisitings and revivals of old, the kind of nostalgic thing that kind of happens in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So I would say absolutely yes. I think
yes.
Absolutely.
There we go. So we got Crybaby in there.
Is that number 5?
I think that's number 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes. Yeah. It is.
Crybaby, the number 5.
All right. So if we're gonna go over to silence, please. We haven't been doing this, but I do think we need to have the sound effect.
Yes.
And wasn't that great?
Apropos. Yes. All right.
Well,
Johnny W.
701 movies to go.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're almost
we're
there,
almost
guys.
at 700.
There.
Our pace is blistering. All right, so as the host, I would like to introduce you guys, our listeners, to this concept that we're going to try to adopt for our for our 10th episode. Kind of our little bit of a special.
Never thought we'd make it.
Yeah, we never. That was so many bad movies ago, right? I mean, that was Body of Lies ago, World's Greatest Dad,
Little Big Man, and Hidden Fortress. You guys loved. And
Actually, I think we voted no on Hidden Fortress, right?
No, you did. Yes.
The Royal Turnip
reminding us. Yeah.
We've had fun.
I hope you had fun.
Yeah, we hope you've had fun. We hope this isn't playing in some cost cutters in Eugene, Oregon right now. So
I hope that. Are you kidding me?
I
That'd be
guess-
amazing.
Okay,
We made it.
we made it.
That'd be like a dozen more people that are listening to it now. Come on.
I'd be lucky if I got my brother to listen to this podcast.
Oh, man. All right. So what we're going to do for this episode is we're going to do our next episode is a different format. Is basically I'm kind of terming it this like a mystery movie madness. Basically,
I thought it was a mystery movie mania, but okay.
Mania
What was Mystery Movie
Madness.
Monday?
Monday. Okay, well that's a little bit harder, but
We don't have to know when we record it. We'll just say it's Monday.
That's true. Mania Monday Madness of the mystery movies. So what's going to happen is, our traditional format is the 3 non-hosts lay out the movie they'd like to be considered. They say the name of the movie, but for this episode, I'm going to have my 3 co-hosts describe their movie with being as non-specific as possible. That means no references to time periods, no references.
Oh, really?
Try to be as vague as
I
possible.
thought we just couldn't say the title.
No.
director.
We're really trying to be vague
Well,
here.
obviously, or who's in it, but like...
no actors, not location. Not like this film's in Europe. Like, I have an example for you. Here's a movie. See if you can guess it really quickly. It's like a haiku. Okay. A man faces repeated setbacks at his job, so he decides to take a fishing trip.
Simon Killer?
Jaws, right? Jaws. All these kids are being eaten.
So he decides. I take issue with that.
Okay, well, we'll be taking issue with your description.
Let's just get on to the
Anyways,
thing.
yes. So... that's what we're going to be doing, and we're not going to even reveal what the winner will not reveal their movie until next week when we hit play. So we will be in as much suspense as you will be, and I'm sure our Twitter feeds will be blowing up asking for the real names. But so let's go ahead. Who wants to jump in?
Well, I was least recent, so Tony, it's up to him.
As vague as possible. We don't want to be able to guess this, Tony.
Here's the thing: is I narrowed it down to 3, so I'm going to see if I can make my description general enough that it describes all 3.
Wow!
Okay, fine. I don't know. I can't pick. I really can't pick. Let's start with someone else.
Okay, I had something kind of pre-planned. It doesn't quite fit Kirk's criteria. I won't say the time period in which the movie was
whatever
made.
you need. Yeah, whatever.
I will say that my film is a World War II era. It takes place, deals with the World War II era time. It's about a fight in a city.
Okay.
And I will say this may come back to bite me, but there is a battle with a Nazi robot.
What?
That's all I'll say.
What?
Yeah.
I am at a loss. I will say that.
I don't think you guys know this movie.
Okay. Well, you had me at Nazi robot. Go to the next person.
He was sitting on the Nazi robot the whole time.
I thought he was describing Saving Private Ryan. I was like about to be really depressed, but okay. Go ahead.
Do you want me to go, Tony?
All right, I'll go. A boy goes to his grandfather's farm, and whoa, daddy, does he not expect what happens there?
Oh. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I
can't wait for the rebuttals, by the way. This is going to be hilarious. Farm trip versus Nazis. Okay, go ahead. Yes.
I did not plan for this. I will say, though, real quick, that before we decided on this mystery thing, I wanted to nominate a movie from each of us that we all hated and just tear it apart, but Tony said no.
Okay.
So I'm going to stick to a movie I really don't like.
Okay.
It's part of a franchise, a relatively popular film, and I will say is an action thriller movie
Okay.
where a person aims to achieve her goals.
That's any movie ever.
Nazi robot is in every movie.
No, it's every,
Okay, fine. I can give.
I guess it's a female protagonist.
He said to be as vague as possible.
I do like that.
Achieve her
Can you give me
goals.
like one more sentence?
All right.
Well, he just said it's in a
Element.
franchise, popular. I don't know.
Well, no, I want to hear a little bit more. Like,
Get one more clue.
yeah, give me one more little tidbit.
Um,
Morsel.
All right.
Is there a romance?
No. I'm trying to think of a way to describe this without giving it away.
Okay. Well, if we're at risk of that, I'll go with what you have.
If I come up with something during the rebuttals.
that's fine. So I have my three. Now this is going to be hard. Honestly, it's going to be hard for me, as it was hard for these gentlemen to think of descriptions because usually we just want to pick what sounds good based, in part on the title. So, let's go for rebuttal. If you can rebut.
All right.
How can you rebut?
We all know as soon as Congress said World War II, we knew a Nazi thing was going to happen. It's a robot in this one. It's just fill in the blank. Nazi noun. Like, it could have been anything. It could have been a Nazi hat, a Nazi chair. In this case, it's a robot.
A robot is the coolest version of that.
I don't know.
The coolest thing to be modified by that adjective.
Anthony's going to try to blow our minds by disliking a movie we like. All I'm going to say, Kirk, what's your favorite breakfast item?
I'll eat bacon. I don't know. Maybe.
What's your second favorite?
Eggs?
Oh, well, are you in luck? Because there is an egg in this movie.
How'd you know I was going to say eggs?
I would have kept going until you said egg.
Well, you're welcome, audience. Glad I like eggs.
I shouldn't have revealed my trick, but okay.
There is an egg in this movie.
There's an egg in it.
What?
Just one. Just one egg.
Oh, I know Tony's trying to screw me over the most. By the way,
I've told him I'm trying to make him regret
somehow be
his
like
words
Texas
and deeds.
Chainsaw Massacre or like
It could be. You don't know.
Simon Killer
Mr.
director's
Bunny.
cut.
It could be. We don't know.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to run that risk.
There are no
If you
farms.
have any courage whatsoever, you'll pick my answer.
There are no farms in Simon Killer. That is true.
It's debatable.
We're getting worked up. All right. What
All
do
right.
you guys have to say? Anything?
All right, let me just add to make this a little bit more fair, I guess. Another brief description. I'll leave it here. Hand to hand, fight to fight, sword to sword.
Oh, okay. I think I know what it is. All right. Maybe not. Do I know what it is? I don't think I'm that clever. Go ahead.
For anything I can think of, it's Lord of the Rings. I'm so stumped. This is why I'm so curious with what these guys have picked. For Tony, I thought he made an excellent rebuttal, though. It was pretty funny. And as for me, I don't know anything about these movies. I can't rebut them. I'm just going to say that, there really is a Nazi robot in this movie.
Can I have one more point, Kirk?
Sure.
And it's not played for laughs, either.
I'll say, Kirk, if you have any good sense, you won't pick my option. But if you have any courage, you will. That's all.
Wow.
Are you
I'm
a drape or a
confounded.
square?
This is where you get to prove your mettle, Kirk.
Cry baby.
Okay, I don't know. All right, this is hard. I want to pick all three. Can we make that one movie? No.
We are actually all talking
I
about
can
one
imagine the
movie.
Nazi robot in your action adventure
I'm-
movie, and then the egg would be in it as well.
I'm trying to think what Connor's is. I'm giving up hope on Tony's. Could be like Made in Manhattan, with Jennifer Lopez.
The boy next door.
Maybe, I don't know.
First
Okay.
edition of the Odyssey.
That's
So,
right. I would have worked that in my head.
though I would want to hear Anthony tear apart either Kill Bill Volume 1 or 2, I think I'll have
It's not like part
pass.
of a franchise.
I think it... What? What's a franchise? 2 movies.
Kill Bill and it's not a franchise.
It's a franchise. A franchise is defined as...
Anyway,
okay.
We'll get
Sorry,
beyond
go
that.
on.
I think it might be Kill Bill, but... And this is really not... there's not a loser, there's a winner here. And the winner is not a movie, it's a person. And this person is very special because he submitted for our consideration a movie called Simon Killer that really blew the audience away.
Did it?
And even drove me to become an alcoholic. And so I'm going to give him another chance, and I hope I pick up a new habit.
Why would you?
Wait. Can we reveal our movies so that way people know what they're missing?
I wish you hadn't picked me, but okay. All right,
And Tony, I will not forget that there was an egg involved. So if you try
There's
to
an
fuck
egg.
me
I'm not
over,
lying.
okay.
I'm not lying about any of this.
We're all going to be taking notes, guys.
I am excited for Tony to reveal to us what this movie is, so I'm not excited that he gets to hold it over our head. I hadn't thought of that until now.
I feel like you'll hold over my head once we watch the movie. That's what I feel.
Tony's full of regret.
All right, let's reveal.
Yes.
Let's reveal. Okay, my movie is a movie called Canal by Andrzej Wajda.
I never would have guessed that.
Yeah, it's not a very well-known movie. I mean, well, it's respected in some circles. Classic Polish World War II film, part of a trilogy from the 50s. I knew this is the only way I could get Kirk to pick something like that. Anyway, so there is a robot. I'm not sure. I was worried that if you guys did pick this, you'd be disappointed by the robot appearance. It's a wired, like remote controlled like bomb, but it looks like a robot. It looks like a real. It's like shocking when you see it. You wouldn't have thought they had these back then. And the way they deal with it is they have to cut the cord. Anyway, it's a very, very visceral, very intense, extremely. Kind of reined in war movie that I really, really love.
Okay.
Well, now that sounds interesting. The movie I nominated, Connor brought up Lord of the Rings. It wasn't that. But the movie I nominated is a film that I honestly don't understand. That anyone outside of a high school junior intro to film class could like. And it is the first volume of Kill Bill.
Yes.
Interesting.
Okay.
I can't even look at him right now.
It's a great
I'm
thing.
so filled with disgust.
I'm personally partial to Volume 2 over Volume 1.
As
I like
a
2 more
better,
than
like
one.
you like
It's
it
a
more?
much better movie, I think. It's
It's much
I mean,
better. They're good for different reasons, personally.
I mean, I think it is. I can't say it's a better movie. I like it more. I think it has more going on in it. But anyway, we're not talking about Kill Bill.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's another episode. We'll probably get to that worst idea sometime, maybe
Episode 50.
Episode 50 in like 2018.
200.
So, Tony, anything to say for yourself? You're
My God, have mercy on my soul.
yes, and ours as well. We'll
Wait.
see you next. Oh, go
No,
ahead,
sorry,
Anthony.
no.
No, we're done. All right. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll see you next week, and
Thanks.
we'll be just as surprised as you. Take care.
Bye.
Convinced my 3 co-hosts to play one round of Bean Boozled with me. And if you don't know what Bean Boozled is, we have a simple spinner mechanism here, and
I think we'd be the first YouTube channel or podcast channel to ever do this.
yeah, I don't think it's ever happened on any sort of
Well,
medium
one
before.
group tried, and they died. It was my cousin.
The podcast 705 tried it. Let's just say they're either in a mental institution, they're in jail, or they're dead. So, what it is, we have a bunch of different colored jelly beans here, and each color has a regular flavor and kind of like a horrible flavor, a disgusting flavor. So we have Stinky Socks is with Tutti Frutti.
That's horrible.
Well, let's just go through as we get them.
Well, let's just really quick. Long clippings with lime, rotten
That's not so
egg
bad.
with buttered popcorn, toothpaste with berry blue, which I've had. It's not that bad.
Doesn't sound that bad. Yeah.
This one I think is the second worst. Barf with peach,
I've had barf. It's bad.
canned dog food with chocolate pudding, booger with juicy pear, moldy cheese with caramel corn, baby wipes with coconut, and the piece de resistance, skunk spray with licorice. That is the black. So I will be doing
Baby
my utmost.
wipes. So presumably clean baby wipes.
Yeah, no, it doesn't taste like poop or anything. I mean,
Well, we don't
kinda
know.
does.
Maybe.
I've had the baby wipes. It's
Thanks for
That's
for
very, very gnarly.
Never play this game.
I'm already
Yes.
very nervous. I'm
Alright.
very
Who do you-
nervous.
who do you wanna
this
go
is just
first, Kirk?
50-50. You know, maybe it's more or less than that. I'm not sure, but who would like to go
I'll
first?
get it over
Tony,
with. I want to
get
get it over with. I'm really worried
This
about
would be a real shame if we all got good flavors.
All right, so I ended up with the what would
Caramel corner moldy cheese.
How would you
Yeah.
describe this color?
It's a spotted
that
yellow.
one right here.
Yeah,
Yellow.
it's not the way light yellow. That's
That looks
All
like
right,
wait,
it's sort
wait.
of an orangey, yellowy.
Is it this
speckled.
one?
it looks like that one.
It
Look at
must be this one.
Yeah, that's it. Okay.
All right, bottoms up. It's hard to tell, honestly. Oh, it's caramel corn. I'm in the clear. I made it. All right, I'll pass it over
Is
to
the
Connor.
mic functioning? I think we might have to start over. I'm not
No,
sure.
I'm good. I'm good.
Alright, let's
This is like Russian roulette over here. Yeah.
Oof.
Oh no.
No, you got the canned dog, the brown.
I got chocolate pudding or canned dog food. Okay.
Neither of those actually sound good.
Yeah,
Give it,
dog,
give it a shot. Yes, dog food.
All right.
Yeah.
How would you describe the taste of dog food?
And it's meat-like.
Oh,
All right, Kirk.
what I've always wanted.
Not too bad,
The
actually.
reddish. I also
Wait.
got buttered popcorn or rotten egg.
So that's like the real light one,
Like that one right here.
or that one, yeah.
All right, I'll take this one.
Rotten egg or buttered popcorn. Oh God.
Buttered popcorn.
Oh, okay.
Is
One
Connor the one loser? I have a feeling I'm due.
Wasn't too bad. I would go for another canned
Gambler's
dog food,
fallacy,
actually.
Kirk. You're just no less due than anyone else.
Yeah. Oops. I don't. Yeah. Let's get a real spin. I must
Oh yeah,
spin.
sure.
All right.
I say we
You're
go.
Let's do
orange.
peach and barf. All right.
It's a little on the blue.
my gosh.
Barf, if memory serves, is quite bad.
I would
Come
think
on.
so.
Big money, no whammies. John Waters is for you.
He's allergic to peaches, so that's why.
No.
Kirk, you gotta swallow it.
You gotta eat the whole thing, Kirk. I'm sorry.
If you should see what he's doing right now, he's doing cartwheels. Are you okay?
That was barf.
You look like you just did the cinnamon challenge.
That was fucking horrible. Oh my god.
It looks like you yourself barf.
It looks like you turned into the incarnation of barf.
Dude, go get a drink of water. Oh my god.
He looks legitimately sick right
Especially,
now.
I'm worried about Kirk.
Guys, I don't think these were jelly beans. They were poison.
Yeah, I think I lucked out.
Brute. Oh.
It's too brute.
So wait, so how does this work? So
think we're-
is this it?
That is it. I lost.
We can't top that climax.
All right, guys. Longest episode yet. 53 and a half minutes. Woo!
Yeah.
See you next week with my mystery movie madness. I cannot wait.
You guys want to go for one more round?